Hello, my name is Justin Bright, and welcome to Kerbal Space Program version 1.8.1 in my next small step RP-1 career mode playthrough. And we had to cut last episode short just a bit because of unforeseen circumstances, but that's fine. We are going to get right back into it, and we are going to continue our mission to the moon. Alright, so here we are on our way out to the moon. Kind of missed the cut there, but let's not worry about that. We are on the way with Elvira, Bruce, and Christine heading out to the moon to first up rendezvous with Lunette Station. So yeah, let's take a look at all of the systems. I had to dig in there and mess with the fuel cells because that just seems to be my life, and I like to tuck them away in very hidden places, so that made it a little bit more difficult than it probably should have been. But let's take a look at our supplies and vitals and everything else. So yeah, this thing has perpetual electric charge because it is using 3 fuel cells that are maxed out. It looks like they are in fact producing at full tilt, which I feel like they used to throttle, but that is not happening at this time, probably because the batteries are low, so they're running at full tilt. So we have 24 days of food on board, which is kind of the standard amount that I'm keeping on hand just in case. Yes, there is in fact a maneuver node. Thank you for letting me know. We got 12 days of water, but that's just what's on hand. That's what is the maximum amount that we can hold in the tanks, is about 12 days worth. The rest is being thrown overboard, just being vented in a slow trickle out into space. We have oxygen that is being converted from gaseous oxygen, or from liquid oxygen, I should say. It is gaseous oxygen that is being converted from liquid oxygen. And then we have 28 days of lithium hydroxide because we have a small tank in the main service module. Because I'm pretty sure this is the first time I'm using this new service module, so there's lots of bugs that I've been working out and testing and so forth, and hopefully everything is now working properly, but there may be issues. Like one of the issues that I notice is that I don't think we have nitrogen on here, so we can't EVA even if we wanted to. Which is fine for this mission, but in the future it's definitely something we're going to want to get rectified. So yeah, we are about halfway through this burn. Other than that, there's not a whole lot going on with this one. We have fairly cramped living space, no comfort, no EVAs available, but everything else should be, in theory, just fine for this particular trip. This thing has everything that it needs to maneuver and rendezvous and all of that, but that is all that it has because it is intended to work with a fully functional service module of some sort, either at the destination or whatever. But it is only going to take about 5-ish days there and back, so we will not have any trouble with the stuff that we have on board. Then we're going to get the 30 days in once we dock with Lunette Station. Very exciting stuff. So yeah, we are just about finished with this burn, so I can probably just accelerate that down a little bit. I'm sure it's going to be off just slightly, but that's also not a big deal. We have this big S4B stage that we are going to toss directly at the moon. There are things that we could do with these stages, but I choose not to, at least for now. Maybe later on we'll have more interesting things that we can do, but for now, that is all. I don't think these are supposed to be firing, but that's fine. I must have messed up my staging or something. Or activated these, or I don't know. But yeah, so there we go. Let's see how we did on our orbit. Good enough to impact the moon directly, which is perfect because we want to dispose of this stage. So let's go ahead and do that now. Let's just check this. Boop, boop, boop. Okay, cool. And then we can decouple this spacecraft. Don't worry about our hydrogen tanks. And looks like these are not... Okay, hold on. It's probably one of the cross feeds. Let's enable this cross feed. Nope, that didn't do it. There's also a interstage adapter in here. Turn that cross feed on. There we go. Perfect. Now we actually have 2 sets of RCS so that we have better control. So yeah, this is my custom built service module. It probably looks pretty darn familiar. using the same AJ-10-137 service propulsion engine and all of that. And it's got a nice long-range S-band parabolic antenna, as well as the built-in UHF antenna on board the capsule itself. Gain of 3 dBi, which I feel like is higher than I'm used to. Yeah, I don't know. I don't remember what the Omni antenna is normally, but I feel like it's higher than that. Looks like we have lost our encounter. There we are. Well, before I do too much of that, let's make sure we're not going to actually impact the darn S4B. So let's go ahead and move away from it as we plan to change our orbit just slightly so that we get a better encounter. Yeah, nice nimble thing. All right, yeah, so this thing's fairly simple. So it should, in theory, work just fine for our purposes. So I'm just using the RCS to actually target Lunette Station. And then I can just use the RCS to get us into an orbit that should be coming in this way and out that way, and that, I think that's right. This is a well, we would encounter and then we would smash into the moon. So let's maybe not do that one. There we go. All right, looking good. Beautiful. All right. There we go. We're letting the S4B pass us on by. We don't have to worry about that. Hopefully this is debris now. Should be debris now. And then there we go. So we are on our way. Yeah, so absolutely no issues so far. Super excited about that. You can kind of look inside. Let's see. It's a good way to do this. There we go. You can kind of see inside here where we just have a this modular service module here, which has lithium hydroxide, liquid hydrogen, water, oxygen, liquid oxygen, all that good stuff. We have a couple external ECLSS modules. I don't know why this one has all 4. It's only supposed to have the 1. The other one. Seriously, where's the other one at? Huh. Well, that's weird. I thought I had 2 of these ECLS modules in here. I'm going to have to pull this thing apart and make sure I designed this correctly. I don't know what happened. I thought for sure there were 2 of these in here. But anyways, this is handling all of our ECLS stuff. I thought I had 2 because I thought they could only have 1 at a time. And I definitely would not have had both an N2 and an O2 pressure controller, and I don't have any need of an air pump, so something is going wrong here. So it's one of those things where I make changes and then I forget about it, and then I update the game, and then things work weird, which, you know, I bring completely on myself. But anyways, it looks like we are going to make it nonetheless, thank goodness. So let's get us on out towards the moon. All right, we're making our 4 or 5 day journey, slowly getting out there, and we have fantastic signal all the way back to the deep space network using our S-band antenna, which is a lovely thing that I take for granted now that I'm actually needing to do things like relays. But we have a communications network around both the moon and Mars now, which is so freaking cool. All right, so we have arrived. Let's move to point prograde and fix our orbit, because it kind of came off a little bit during our futzing around on the way in between here and there. Actually, it should probably be more radial that we're going to go. There we go. We hold in this direction, and that is bringing our orbit down, and we are already just about equatorial with the moon, which, not equatorial, but we are how to put this, in the plane of Earth, I guess, which is 28 degrees, which is actually great because that means we only need to make a 30-degree inclination change in between here and our orbit target for when we are going to be doing the 2-day orbit around the moon for that particular part of the contract. But as I said, we are coming in the inclination of Lunette Station, so let's go ahead and do that first, and then we can deal with getting into a 55-degree inclination orbit, and then we can return home from that orbit. That way we're only doing one thing at a time, and we don't have to like go to a 55-degree inclination from this one and then change back again. It's a lot more efficient to do it like this. So now we have an orbit that kind of touches the other one of Lunette Station. It's a little bit out of inclination, but only just slightly. I'm trying to kind of just push in one direction so that we can lower our relative inclination just slightly. You can see that it's going down at a fairly decent clip. And I'm just pushing in a direction like this, like that's all I'm doing is just pushing RCS in one direction until our relative inclination is low enough to not be a problem. Fabulous. Okay, so now what we can do is I can just grab a node right here and we can insert into orbit of the moon. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to get pretty close to the orbit that we are going to be meeting up in. And you see now how I think I've tried to do this and I didn't get it to work the last time I tried to rendezvous, but probably because I was going in the wrong direction. But anyways, you can see that we have our target position and intersect 2 down here like this, and when I just move our orbit like that, it swings the second encounter around because the first encounter is locked on our first insertion pass. When we first hit this point, this is where we're going to be, and this is where Lunette Station is going to be. But the second time is completely up to how we set up our orbit. And you can see that we can set up an encounter right now, which is just fabulous. So I can set it up to have a decrease that separation down to 0.9 sounds fantastic, with a relative velocity of 267 meters per second. So that's a 500 meter per second insertion burn, and then another 267 we have a 508 meter per second insertion burn, and then when we rendezvous, which is going to be on the very next pass, we are going to be less than a kilometer away at a relative velocity of 267 meters per second, which I could not have asked for any better. That is going to leave us tons of fuel to do the rest of this mission. So yeah, absolutely fantastic. I don't think I have any cool science that I have set up because this is all contract and cash that I'm working on. But everything seems to be going well so far. We take a look at everybody's vitals and everybody is happy. There's a little bit of radiation, a little bit of stress. Everybody's been cramped up inside this tiny capsule for 5 days. This is the Block 3 capsule, so it actually has room for 5, which sounds just awful to me. But that should, in theory, give them a little bit of extra room. But it's not so much that it's actually like comfortable. They can't like wander the cabin and take their suits off and all that. Probably have like a shirt sleeve environment on the way over here, but that's as much as they can do. All right, so let's go ahead and execute the next node. And yeah, so this is going pretty well so far. So missions that head up to the International Space Station, which is what this is kind of most like, honestly. Although that's not true. There were things like Skylab and things of that nature that were a lot more, a lot closer to home and a lot closer to what we're doing with this one. Because Skylab was actually something that used Apollo service modules to bring crew up to, as I understand it. Yeah, after a brief moment of research, it looks like Skylab was actually launched on a modified Saturn V, where they pulled off the last stage so that they could actually just put the entire space station pre-prepared on board and into orbit. And then they launched Apollo modules on Saturn 1Bs, kind of like my own Saturn 1B or Paladin 3B, Paladin 2. Anyways, my Paladin vehicle that is an analog of the Saturn 1B that launches just an Apollo capsule into low Earth orbit. So yeah, that's kind of how Skylab worked, and that's a little bit how this is going to work as well, where we have the module that has been placed into orbit, and we are into lunar orbit, and we are going to be meeting up with it with a modified Apollo vehicle. Somewhere in between the full Saturn V and the Saturn 1B that was used to launch crew up to Skylab. But in any case, that's kind of similar to what we're doing here. But when you're on board, during the journey, you wear your flight suits on your way up into your initial orbit. So when you're actually launching from Earth, you want to be as safe as possible, and so you're using the full flight suit with not the EVA suit that you see them flying around outside in, but there's a particular suit that they use that is able to be pressurized in the case of a loss of pressure event. But once you're actually underway and you're flying for 5 days, you don't have to wear the big bulky suit the entire time. There is actually the ability to climb out of those suits and wear something a little bit more comfortable in between Earth and the moon. And so that is what I imagine that they're wearing now. And something that you might have seen with the more recent Dragon flight up to the International Space Station. They put the suits back on when it comes time for docking, for the exact same reason that you wear it when you're in flight, just so that you have that extra layer of safety, because the safety of the astronauts is always absolutely paramount in these sorts of things. So you want to make sure that there's going to be no issues that could cause harm, and that you don't have people struck in a panicked event where something struck the spacecraft or there was some kind of loss of pressure. You wouldn't want to at that point be looking for where the heck the spacesuits are. You know what I mean? You'd want to be all ready to go just in case the absolute worst happened. Helmets on and all of that. Oh no! Why am I like this? Alright, so just finishing up this burn, and boop, there we go. Let's see how we did. That looks pretty darn good. Looks like it fell off a little bit when I had to make some changes. But yeah, so what I'm going to do is we're just going to rotate around just one time, get out to the ascending node, point ourselves retrograde because it just happens to be close. And then you can see I'm just burning the RCS to lower our relative inclination to approximately 0, which is what you do at the ascending and descending nodes. There we go, perfect. And I just want to make sure now, since we're pointing retrograde, I just want to bring down our separation as low as I possibly can, and I've lost it. That's neat. Just burning the RCS radially to bring down this separation a little bit. I had to reload because I accidentally fat fingered the staging key. I'm sure that's something we've all done several times, and it's just the most fun thing. So if you're noticing my orbital parameters are slightly different, it's because I fat fingered that, and now I had to redo things. Whee! But we are coming back around. Let's see. What can I do to bring this down just a touch? Yeah, it's gonna be one of those things where I have to fiddle in both directions quite a bit. Oh, there we go. That's the one. 30.3. Okay, so let's go ahead and we'll just manually do that because this is going to be fiddly. And there we go. Just a little bit further down. Okay, so yeah, we have just a little bit of extra delta V to spend because things are a little bit different than they were. Fire that up and bring that orbit up a little bit so that we can rendezvous. And there we go, that's good enough for me. And just burning RCS, and that is correcting us at a much better way. Look at that. Oh, hold on. .0 separation. We will collide, probably. May or may not be a good thing, but... And so we are coming in close. Let's look at the target. Let's make sure that I can see where we are. We still have a slightly higher orbit than our target, and so we will be coming in a bit quick, but it's only a couple hundred meters per second at delta V, and that should leave us with tons left over for further operations in orbit. Distance 140,000 meters, 140,000, 133. Is it? Oh, there it is. Just coming up over the horizon. All right, so let's target. Ooh, careful. Very careful with this, shall we? Yeah, because we could very well be on an absolute collision course, so we're going to want to be careful about that. It's our okay, 30 seconds, so we are going to want to start the engine soon. 4 seconds, just counting down. All right. I am firing up the engine to bring down our relative velocity as we are pulling into range here. There we go. I should have fired it up quite a bit earlier as it turns out. Shoom! There it goes. Goodbye, Lunette Station. I am a doofus. Things were going so well. But then I forgot how low thrust the AJ-10 is. You'd think that I would know by now that it is not a particularly zippy engine. All right, there we go. Now we are going to be meeting at a much more reasonable 7.5 meters per second when we get back into range, and I can much more sedately attempt to burn off that little bit of extra velocity. So that is definitely something that you do not do when you approach the International Space Station, for example. There are parameters for bringing down your velocity to such a slow speed. So that is something that you would never be coming up on it this close or this fast. But this is Kerbal Space Program, so it is totally fine for us. All right, just a couple 100 meters away. Oh no, it's rotating. That's probably not good. Hopefully I don't have to do an interstellar style rendezvous. Right, firing up the engine to shave off that relative velocity, and there we go. Just doing the last bits with RCS because I don't want to overdo it. Half a degree, 0.4, 0.3, 0.2. Okay, good enough. So let's go back to this, and let's take a look at Lunette Station and see why you are rotating. Let's just... Oh, I think you're trying to point at the sun is the issue. It's working, though, which is good. So there we go. That is now going to be nice and still. So let's switch over to this cam here. So parallel minus... and that points us in the correct direction, and force roll of 0 degrees will point us perfectly so that we are down the barrel of our wonderful Lunette Station. We have made it so far. Things are looking real good. Used up just a bit of our everything, really. But that is looking good. We are not quite down the barrel. A little strange. I'm not sure. It's... This is behaving a little strangely. I'm not sure what's going on with this and why this is flopping around quite so much. Maybe it's because I'm just... Am I behind it? Am I in front of it? Oh, am I not targeting the right thing? I need to target... Oh, that's right. I need to target this drogue docking port. So I need to point in a different direction than I thought, because we actually have there's different ports on here. There's 2 ports for Apollo vessels and 1 for continued extension and expansion. So there we go. That's why this was weird, because I don't know what I was targeting. But now we seem to be pointed in the right direction and moving in the right direction, which is just fabulous. And so from here, it's just a nice slow approach, nice and cautious. We're only 40 or so meters away. But yet I still time warp a bit. All right, moving us forward at about half a meter per second. It is too fast, but we will slow down as we approach. Docking is, I find it to be pretty easy with the Navyfish docking mod, as I've mentioned many times in the past, because it just gives you the feedback that you need. And that's what I have. That's the trouble that I have with docking by hand, and why I think that a lot of new players have so much trouble with rendezvous and docking, is because there's no good feedback for it, because it's not an intuitive thing. Like, it doesn't make a ton of sense how it works. But let's slow it on down, because we are very, very close now. It's not intuitive by any stretch of the imagination. And you don't get the proper feedback. Like, it's that kind of thing where, like, if you don't know if you're doing well or not, it's almost impossible to improve. And this makes it very easy to see everything that you need. Extend the docking probe. Let's do that. Does that mean I can't? Hold on. How does this actually work? If I retract the docking probe, maybe? Chunk! There we go. We have docked. Everything is fantastic. Awesome. Okay, so now I want to go in and I actually want to turn off some of the stuff. Because we are here and we are ready to go, and we do not need all of the stuff on the Apollo to be working. So let's turn off the fuel cells. Can I just turn those off right here? That's amazing. Turn those off. Turn off the extra scrubber in there to save that business. We're going to turn off the extra locks to GOX converters into pressure controllers. Not that one. That one and that one. Air pumps that should probably not exist. Okay, so that looks about right as far as that, but let's see how we're doing here. Looks like, okay. Oh, wait, hold on. What I can do now is I can transfer crew, oops, where's the button? Transfer crew, Elvira over to the actual space station, transfer Bruce Henderson over, and then transfer Christine Adams over. And then the big reason why we're using so much power is we have avionics on here that is incredibly expensive. And if you get everybody out, then, and only then, can you shut down the avionics, and you see that we just dropped a kilowatt of power usage. Which means we are now only using... Yep, that's still not quite gonna do it. Automatization. Maybe there's some things on here I can turn off. That Lyle scrubber's turned off. What else can I turn off? Is there anything else I can turn off? Can't turn off all the sensors or anything like that, which is unfortunate. Okay, that appears to be everything that I can turn off in there. And I've turned off all those other things. Shoot, okay. I guess I'm going to have to run at least one of these fuel cells at all times, because we just don't have enough power. Yep, so I will do that, and we will have to just keep an eye on the power usage, because we may actually have to rely on the fuel cell of the Apollo to power this thing, because I thought for sure that this was going to support everything but I'm not sure that I actually attached an Apollo module to this space station before to test it out to see exactly how that would work. So that is something that we will have to deal with a little bit. But there we go. Otherwise, we are on board Lunette Station, and we have oxygen for a year. We have 2 years of water, 300 days of food, nitrogen. We have 200 days of lithium hydroxide. We have enough liquid hydrogen and oxygen, theoretically, to last, even using the fuel cell this entire time, which is not super great, but once the battery is full, that should hopefully reduce the power usage a little bit. And yeah, but like I said, I'm just going to have to monitor that very carefully to make sure that we are okay. But yeah, we have modest living space, modest comfort, a little bit of shielding on the habitation module here to protect us from radiation. So we are good to go for the long haul. So we have some other stuff to get to after this, but I think that is going to have to take place a little bit later on. We have Martian Moonhopper that is arriving. We have to do this for 30 days, so all kinds of cool stuff, but that's going to have to take place in the next episode. If you enjoyed this episode, please let me know what you think down in the comments below, and I will see you next time.